Welcome to your 10-minute manager toolkit. About a year ago, I helped a vascular surgeon friend of mine move furniture in his new clinic. And I said to him, "Are you sure you should be doing this? Are your hands insured? What's the cost of things going wrong? Shouldn't you be getting a guy in to do this for you?" And that question of when do we get someone in, what can we do ourselves, is such a long and tricky question and so contextual. But there are good reasons and there are bad reasons to get someone in to do something for us. And it's not a question of vanity. It's not a question of laziness. It's a question of what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. So let's talk about these. Let's go. Can I give you advice when I've got clear and obvious skin in the game? The topic today is getting someone in, getting in an external, getting in a builder to do something for you, getting in a painter, getting in an accountant, getting in a lawyer, getting in a project manager, getting in a consultant. I'm only some of those things, but because I'm some of those things, we are some of those people, we offer some of those services. There's a clear and obvious elephant in the room. How can I talk about it? I'm going to err on the side of giving you credit to slap a bunch of salt on this one. And hopefully I'm going to be able to be objective about this as well. If I'm not, my apologies. One can only try, but I thought better that we have a crack at this than just err on the side of not. So let's talk about when is it a good idea, when is it not a good idea to get someone in, and what are some of the factors that may lead to it. Some of these are going to be things that you kind of know implicitly, but there could be some others that you hadn't quite thought of, or were just outside of you thinking that through. So let's talk about them. So let's start off with a good reason not to get someone in. That is where familiarity is more important than expertise. Someone who knows the situation is more important than external expertise. Anytime the person is going to spend more time getting up to speed, and you're going to spend more time explaining it to them than the actual amount of time that they spend working on it, that's a pretty good sign that it's just not worth it. Easier to do it yourself. How important is understanding and how important is external expertise? I'll give you a strange example. This stems from a specialist friend of mine who now does public and private. And this was 20 years ago when everybody was getting married. Someone asked me to be the MC at their wedding. He said, "Oh, great, I've got a book." My sister got it for me, ironically, and it was the strangest book that I'd ever read. Essentially what it was is a professional MC wrote a book explaining why getting an amateur MC is a terrible idea and what you need is a professional MC like him. And it's all under the guise of tips and tricks to be a good MC. But his jokes and his anecdotes and his courtesies were so strange, so formal, so terrible a joke. I thought, gosh, this guy would be awful. This would be some random stranger in a tuxedo turning up, putting a really weird vibe over your wedding. Better to get your friend who can talk, who gives a good speech, who can be funny, even if you'll make a bit of a hash of it, even if she'll tell a terrible joke. Better to get him or her involved, because that familiarity is the most important thing. So it goes that way for wedding speeches and it goes that way for the business. If you understand how things work, and that's more important than whatever professionalism you're bringing to the table, that's a good reason to keep it in-house. So let's talk about another reason to not get someone in. I'm pretty sure you do or have used a cleaner before. I used to use a cleaner. We used to have a cleaner here. But when our cleaner said, oh, look, I can't clean for you anymore, that's when I said, okay, time to stop. Because the reality is the cleaner wasn't doing a better job than we could. It was an efficiency exercise. We were getting her in because she was supposedly going to save us time. This is the equation. It takes me 45 minutes to an hour to clean my house. But the night before every time she came, so if she came on a Monday, we would spend Sunday night tidying the house. We would run around Monday morning putting everything up so she could vacuum. The amount of time that we were taking to prep for her cleaning was about half an hour to save ourselves 45 minutes. The efficiency just wasn't there. The amount of time that it was taking to set her up to do the work, to save us the time, it just wasn't a useful equation. So we stopped the cleaning. The same thing might be for you. There's a false economy to the efficiencies. That is a question of overheads. What is the overhead cost? What is the overhead time? How much time and money are you spending before they actually start delivering in the meeting and then looking at the people and having time and liaising and looking at the contracts? Every hour spent setting things up is an overhead of time that's got to come out of future savings. So now let's talk about good reason to get someone in. And let's draw the difference between a painter versus a builder. Anyone can paint a room. Now, a painter can paint the room better than someone else, but that's not going to cause catastrophic failure. Getting a builder in to build something instead of building it yourself, that's money well spent, because our house can fall down, a wall can collapse. You can do serious structural damage when you're building versus when you're painting. Houses don't fall down from a bad paint job. The worst case scenario, they look bad or they need to be redone. There are some things outside of your expertise that you can't do, and the cost of failure is cataclysmic. You can negotiate the business deal. You don't necessarily need to get your lawyer to negotiate for you. But on the other hand, they've got to do the paperwork, because the costs of getting the paperwork wrong are catastrophic. So if you are just out of your depth and the stakes are high, then that's definitely when you need to get someone in. Now, back to my friend. The other good reason why it just might make sense to get someone in rather than do it yourself is it's just an efficiency thing. There's lots of things that he could do himself. He's a very handy guy, but very quickly goes, you know what? I could just do X instead of trying to dig a ditch. One more clinic could save me hours of hard labor. Yes, I could sort out that drainage problem at my house, or I get someone else to do that for me. It's just not prudent use of my time. You do have to remember your overheads. You do have to factor in, there's always hidden costs. There's going to be GST, that person has to travel. I've got all sorts of things. I've got to make a margin. You've got to spend time explaining it to them. There are always overheads. There are always additional costs on top of the variable costs. But even then, you may find you are a thoroughbred ploughing a field. You are very good at doing something extremely valuable. Better that you do that and you pay someone, even with the tax difference, your tax, their tax, even then, it saves you money to get someone else to do it for you rather than you do it yourself. Well, they could be twice as efficient. They can get it done in half the time than you could trying to figure it out yourself, or it just makes more sense for you to do the thing that you are good at. We live in the world of specialists. Better that you do your specialization and get a specialist in to do their specialization than you try to figure out someone else's job. So hopefully I kept that objective. Hopefully the elephant in the room that I'm slightly talking about, people like me, didn't keep coming up in the back of your brain and you thinking, not dissimilar to the MC trying to sell the book. Has he tried to come to my wedding in a tux? Anyway, hopefully you found it useful. Hopefully you found it interesting. Ironically, now I'm going to give you the pitch. We offer HR services. We offer project management services. We offer training courses. There are things that we can help you with. There's two places that you can look to see how we can help. We have two websites with two focuses. One is Managing Medical, which, as well as being medical, is probably better suited if you're more of a white-collar professional, managing white-collar professional staff. Our other website, Managing Tradies, probably better suited if you are managing more industrial, more construction, more blue-collar trades work. That's at Managingtradies.nz. Alternatively, I have another podcast. This podcast is more focused on practical, useful direct advice for managers and how to deal with their day-to-day ongoing issues. If you want something a little bit more intellectual, a little bit more technical, you can also listen to my other podcast, 12-Minute HR Lesson, focused on HR professionals, but also dealing with the bigger, wider philosophical issues that come up from time to time when we manage other human beings. Otherwise, I'll catch you next time.